Hello world, it is I, Krazy Animations, and I'm here to ask, how the frick do you make intros, because I have no idea what I'm doing. I think there's a point in every storytime animator's career where we run out of ideas and default into a school stories video, and I guess this time it's my turn. For all my life until 8th grade, I went to a tiny little private school. We had two playgrounds, one for the younger classes and one for the older classes. Once you hit 3rd grade, you upgraded into the older kids' playground, and it consisted of a play structure, a big field, and a giant 4-square court. When I say giant, I mean this thing was like 16 squares big. It was huge. Actually, I think it was supposed to be a basketball court, but people only used it for 4-square, so... In our school, 4-square was a godly craft, and for the younger kids, getting the king was practically impossible without an older kid teaming with you. Now, I was terrible at this game, and never made it past like the 4th square without getting absolutely demolished by some 6th grader. One day, these 8th graders didn't want to wait in the long line, so they decided to team with me. For the first time at recess, I progressed in the court and it was terrific. I became power hungry and we, by we I mean they, destroyed every other player in our path until we got to king. Right as we were about to serve, recess ended and our reign of terror ended as well. I'll never forget that amazing day. Also, a few years later, they demolished the huge court and added an ugly music room there instead, and it was really sad. In the 4th grade, there was a beanbag time on Fridays where everyone would sit for 30 minutes in the morning and do whatever they wanted to on a beanbag. Me and a few of my friends who also liked to draw used that time to create comics and eventually started to pile them together to make a comic club. We would take one piece of paper and draw 4-ish rows. Then we would use one line each to write our comics. I had a section about this knight who had a really short sidekick and would always try to save this princess who didn't want to be saved. We named our group Looking Sharp Comics and even planned to make t-shirts for it. But in the end, we realized we were really broke 4th graders and didn't know how money worked, so... Anyways, one of my friends had a whole universe he created called Bobby Hot Dog. There were like 1,000,000 pages and even lore to it, and each character was based off someone else he knew. I had a character based off a strawberry and she had a giant mallet and it was super cool. The first day of 7th grade, we had to do a geocaching activity at the zoo with the 8th graders as a team building skills activity. We had to find the coordinates in specific spots of the zoo and get photographic evidence that we had made it to those spots. The day was going to happen, it was supposed to rain heavily, but our teachers didn't really care and we ended up going anyways. The teachers brought some umbrellas just in case, but they never ended up giving them to us, which was super stupid for what happens next. Once we arrived at the zoo, everything was seeming to be perfectly fine. There was clear skies, we had gotten out in our assigned groups, and everyone was starting their geocaching adventures. Everything was super cool until it started to drizzle, then rain, then pour. Me and my team ran for cover at the closest roof spot, but since this activity was for a grade, that didn't last long. We went to each of the spots and got photo evidence of us at the locations we needed to be out even though we were soaked. At one point, we made it to the seal exhibit and another group of kids was also there. The seal exhibit had a staircase down to an area where you can see the seal swimming underwater, and it was filled with over a foot of water. One of my friends even tried to swim in it, even though he failed. Finally, it was time to leave and we were super soaked, but the rain was finally starting to stop. Because my lunch had been soaked, I ended up buying and eating 3 buckets of cotton candy because that was the only available edible thing. Well, that's about it for this video. Thank you so much for sticking with me the whole way through, and if you want to be featured in my next storytime video by submitting your fan art, join the Discord in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. This is Krazy Animations signing off. Keep being cool and keep being crazy.